Another round for everyone. Mom waved her hand dramatically, her diamond bracelet catching the light. The same bracelet I'd bought her last party. Don't worry about the bill. My son will handle it. He always does. Laughter rippled through her friends at the expensive restaurant. I sat there, fork frozen midway to my mouth as the words hit like shards of glass. 7 years of supporting them, and this was what it had come to, a joke at a dinner table. Oh, Margaret, you're so lucky. Mrs. Peterson, her tennis partner, giggled. Having your own personal ATM must be wonderful. Mom didn't even try to defend me. Instead, she leaned in, wine glass tilting dangerously. The best part, he never says no. Not to the house repairs, not to Tommy's college fund, not to anything. Just waves that magic credit card of his. More laughter, more jokes. I sat there, invisible despite funding this entire evening. My mother's 50th birthday celebration. $15,000 for the party, not counting the bracelet or the new dress she was wearing. My younger brother Tommy caught my eye from across the table and quickly looked away. He knew. Of course he knew. I paid his entire college tuition, covered his rent, bought his car. But he stayed silent, picking at his $200 Wagyu steak. Remember when he got that big promotion? Mom continued, her voice carrying across the table. First thing he did was pay off our mortgage. Didn't even think twice about it. Such a good son, someone commented, but the words dripped with condescension. I pulled out my phone, opening my banking app. 7 years of transactions stared back at me. House payments, car loans, credit card bills, vacations, shopping sprees. $300,000. My entire savings poured into their endless needs. Oh, and just last week, Mom was on a roll now. He bought me this stunning bracelet. Didn't even ask why I needed it. Just handed over his card like always. My fingers tightened around my phone. Something inside me, something that had been bending for years, finally snapped. I opened my photos, scrolling through screenshots I'd been collecting. Every manipulative text message, every guilt trip, every emergency that required immediate financial assistance, and something else, evidence of their fraud. Yes, fraud. I discovered it 3 months ago. Mom and Dad had been taking out loans in my name, using my personal information. They'd hidden it well, but I found the papers, traced the transactions. More wine. Mom called out, and I watched as another $500 bottle appeared at the table. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. The conversation faltered. Leaving already, honey? Mom asked, her smile never reaching her eyes. Don't forget to stop by the front desk. They're holding the bill for you. More snickers. More knowing looks. I walked to the front desk, but instead of paying, I canceled the entire reservation. Let them figure it out themselves. Outside, the summer evening was warm, but I felt cold. 7 years of being their safety net, their backup plan, their personal bank. 7 years of watching them take and take, never giving anything back except mockery and demands. I drove home in silence, my mind racing. In my study, I pulled out a thick manila envelope. Inside were copies of every transaction, every loan document, every piece of evidence I'd gathered. Their fraud, their manipulation, their endless exploitation, all of it documented in crisp, clear detail. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. The restaurant says there's a problem with the payment. Fix it. Not even a please. Not even a thank you. Just a command. An expectation. I didn't respond. Instead, I started making calls. First to my bank, then to my lawyer, then to my accountant. By midnight, everything was in motion. They had no idea what was coming. No idea that their personal ATM had finally run out of patience, out of money, out of love. The manila envelope felt heavy in my hands as I drove to their house at 2 a.m. Their perfect suburban home, paid for with my money, my sacrifice, my foolishness. I left the envelope on their doorstep, rang the bell, and walked away. Inside was everything, every record, every receipt, every piece of evidence that would destroy their carefully constructed facade. But there was something else too, something they wouldn't expect. A single piece of paper printed in bold letters. Consider this my final withdrawal. By the time you read this, every account will be frozen, every loan called in, every credit line closed. You wanted an ATM? Congratulations. This one just ran out of money and patience. I drove away as lights flickered on in their house. My phone started buzzing immediately, but I didn't answer. I didn't need to hear their excuses, their demands, their manipulations. The ATM was closed. Permanently. Back in my apartment, I poured myself a drink and waited. The storm was coming, but for the first time in 7 years, I wasn't afraid of the thunder. They wanted to treat me like a machine. Fine, but every machine has a shutdown button. And I had just pressed mine. The chaos erupted faster than I expected. By 6 a.m., my phone had logged 47 missed calls, 93 text messages, and 15 voicemails. I listened to the first one, Mom's voice trembling with rage and fear. "What is this? What have you done? You can't just call me back immediately." The second voicemail was Dad, his usual authoritative tone cracking. "Son, you're making a terrible mistake. These accusations, these documents, we need to talk. Now." I deleted the rest without listening. Instead, I watched the sunrise from my balcony, sipping coffee, feeling strangely peaceful. The morning news played on my tablet, a small local story about a prestigious family facing sudden financial irregularities. It was beginning. At 9 a.m., my doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I saw Mom, still wearing her party dress from last night, mascara streaked down her face. Dad stood behind her, clutching the manila envelope, his knuckles white. "Open this door," Mom's voice echoed through the hallway. "You can't do this to us. We're your parents." I pressed the intercom button. "Actually, I can." And I did. "The banks are calling," Dad shouted. "Everything's frozen." "What did you tell them?" "The truth," I replied calmly. "Every transaction, every forged signature, every fraudulent loan." "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" "We're your family," Mom's voice cracked. "Everything we did for the family." I laughed, a cold, hollow sound that surprised even me. "Family? Was it family when you mocked me at dinner? When you called me your personal ATM? When you stole my identity for loans?" "That was different," Dad protested. "We needed." "You needed?" I cut him off. "You needed the vacation home in Florida, the country club membership, Tommy's third car." Speaking of Tommy, my phone buzzed with his message. "Bro, my credit card just got declined. Fix this." I blocked his number. The pounding on my door continued. "If you don't open this door right now," Dad threatened. "Well, you what?" I asked. "Call the police?" "Please do. I'm sure they'd be very interested in these fraud documents." Silence. Then Mom's voice, softer now, manipulative. "Sweetie, we can work this out. We're sorry about last night. I was just joking. You know how I get with wine." "You have exactly 1 minute to leave before I call security," I said. "And Mom, that bracelet you were so proud of, the receipts in that envelope. Fraud charges are serious when the amount exceeds $50,000. I heard Dad's sharp intake of breath. He didn't know about that one. "You wouldn't," Mom whispered. "Try me." They left, their footsteps heavy with defeat and disbelief. But I knew this wasn't over. They'd try again. Different tactics, different approaches. They always did. By afternoon, the flying monkeys arrived. Aunt Susan called, crying about family loyalty. Uncle Pete emailed about forgiveness and second chances. Even my cousin Sarah, who I hadn't spoken to in years, texted about how I was tearing the family apart. I sent them all the same response, a PDF of the fraud documents. The responses stopped quickly after that. Tommy showed up at my office around 4 p.m. Security didn't let him pass the lobby. I watched through the glass doors as he made a scene, shouting about how I was ruining everything, how his girlfriend would leave him now that he couldn't afford their lifestyle. I felt nothing. The brother who sat silently through years of manipulation, who benefited from my generosity while watching them drain me dry, meant nothing to me now. That evening, I received an email from their lawyer, threats of legal action, demands for family mediation, claims of emotional distress. I forwarded it to my attorney without reading past the first paragraph. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mom. "Your father had to go to the hospital. His blood pressure. Please, we need you." Nice try. Dad pulled the same stunt last year when I hesitated about paying for Tommy's spring break trip. I blocked her number too. As night fell, I sat in my study, reviewing the documentation one last time. Years of financial abuse laid bare in spreadsheets and bank statements. The systematic way they'd used me, mocked me, taken everything while giving nothing in return. A notification popped up on my laptop, someone trying to access my bank accounts. The IP address traced back to their house. Dad, probably trying to find a way back into the golden vault. Too late. Everything was locked down, transferred, secured. The ATM was not just closed, it was emptied and dismantled. My doorman called up. "Sir, your brother is back. He's demanding to be let up." "Call the police," I replied. "Already did, sir." I watched through my window as 2 patrol cars arrived, their lights painting the street in red and blue. Tommy's indignant voice carried up to my floor as they escorted him away. Another text came through, this one from an unknown number. "Mom using someone else's phone. We raised you better than this." No, they didn't raise me at all. They shaped me into an ATM, a resource to be drained. But machines can learn, adapt, evolve. And I had evolved beyond their control. 3 weeks passed. The storm didn't die. It transformed. First came the public meltdown. Mom's perfect social circle crumbled as word spread about the fraud. The country club quietly revoked their membership. Dad's golf buddies stopped returning his calls. Their carefully crafted image of affluent superiority shattered like expensive crystal. I watched from a distance as their world imploded. The vacation home went up for sale. Tommy's luxury car disappeared from their driveway. Mom's designer clothes started appearing on consignment websites. Then came the desperate attempts at reconciliation. A handwritten letter arrived at my office. "My dearest son, we've lost everything. Our reputation, our friends, our lifestyle. But losing you hurts the most. Please, let's talk. We can fix this. Love, Mom." I shredded it without a second thought. Dad tried a different approach. He cornered my colleague at the grocery store, pressing a thumb drive into her hand. "Give this to him," he begged. "It's all our family photos, memories of better times." I dropped the drive in the trash without plugging it in. Those better times were just prettier versions of the same exploitation. Tommy took the aggressive route. He posted a long rant on social media about ungrateful siblings and family betrayal. It backfired spectacularly when someone commented with screenshots of his own credit card statements, all the charges I covered over the years. The post disappeared within hours. But the real change came on a quiet Sunday morning, exactly 1 month after the dinner party that broke everything. I was at my favorite coffee shop when Mrs. Peterson, Mom's former tennis partner, slid into the seat across from me. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "We all saw it, you know, the way they used you, the way they laughed. But we said nothing." I sipped my coffee, waiting. "Margaret, your mother, she's been telling everyone you abandoned them, that you're mentally unstable, that you're lying about the fraud." She paused. "But we've known your family too long. We've seen the patterns." And I kept my voice neutral. "And I thought you should know. They were planning something. I overheard them at the pharmacy. Something about proving you're incompetent to manage your own finances. They want control of your accounts." I smiled for the first time in weeks. Let them try. That afternoon, I received a certified letter. They were indeed attempting to claim I was mentally unfit, that my actions were a cry for help, that I needed their guidance to manage my affairs, their last desperate grasp at control. I forwarded everything to my lawyer and went for a long walk. The autumn air was crisp, leaves crunching under my feet. My phone stayed silent. I blocked every number they might use. That silence was my victory. A week later, I ran into Tommy at a local diner. He looked different, cheaper clothes, no designer watch, dark circles under his eyes. He started to approach my table, then stopped, seeing something in my expression that made him reconsider. He left without his coffee. The final blow came from an unexpected source. Dad's sister, Aunt Marie, who'd remained neutral throughout the chaos, sent me an email. "I've watched this family dynamic for decades. Your parents did the same thing to your grandfather. Drained him dry, mocked him behind his back, called him their retirement plan. He died broke and alone. I should have warned you years ago. I'm sorry I didn't." She attached old bank statements, letters, evidence of a pattern that went back decades. A family tradition of financial abuse passed down like a toxic inheritance. But I had broken the chain. 6 weeks after that fateful dinner party, I moved to a new apartment. No forwarding address, no traces, no connections to the past. My company's overseas position had opened up at the perfect time. The night before I left, I drove past their house one last time. The perfectly manicured lawn was overgrown. A past due notice hung on the door. Through the window, I could see them all. Mom, Dad, and Tommy, sitting in the darkness, probably to save on electricity. Their personal ATM had closed forever, and they were finally facing the reality of their own actions. I didn't feel satisfaction or revenge or even anger anymore. I felt nothing, and that nothing was everything I needed. As my plane took off the next morning, I deleted the last traces of their existence from my phone. No photos, no messages, no evidence that I'd ever been their ATM. Some would call it cruel. Some would say family is forever. But I had learned the hard way. Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to let the past overdrop its last check. The ATM was closed. The vault was empty. And I was finally, irrevocably free.